Conservatives are really twisting themselves into pretzels to try to defend Donald Trump, up to and including making egregious ahistorical statements and comparisons about Donald Trump. In this case, I'm talking about Newt Gingrich, who, by the way, doesn't seem like he's doing well. I say that, and you'll notice once the clip starts playing of his, just clear your throat, bro. Do something with the torrent of phlegm that's just rattling around in the back of your throat, Newt. Gravy-necked freak. I want you to listen to this clip. And I want you to listen to the lengths to which Newt Gingrich, a historian, I mean, self-described, I think he was a history professor in a college before he became a congressman and then Speaker of the House. And to hear some of the insane things that he gets ready to say and the comparisons that he makes, we're going to talk about him. It's alarming because it tells you the levels to which they will debase themselves, that there is no dignity possessed by anybody on the right who's in a messaging capacity. All they are there for is to give cover for Donald Trump, to lie, to obfuscate, to confuse the issue. It's kind of the theme of the day, I guess. So listen to this clip from Newt Gingrich on Hannity show last night, just going ham, telling lies and being detached from reality.
I think in terms of the court, something that Speaker Mike Johnson said really struck home with me when he said about the decision on whether or not to help Israel and Ukraine, that this is not a game. Let me tell you, I am deeply worried that tomorrow a totally corrupt judge and a totally corrupt district attorney are going to try to put a former president of the United States, candidate of his party, and front runner in the polls in jail. Now, I think this is so horrendous that there has to be some way to reach out to the Supreme Court. I mean, this is literally like some of the civil rights workers in Mississippi in the 1960s. The New York system is now so deeply corrupted, and it is so bitterly, deeply anti-Trump. The absurdity of the judge's daughter, who made millions and millions of dollars doing anti-Trump politics, and the judge would like us to believe, much like Joe Biden, he had no idea what his children were doing. I mean, the whole thing, frankly, resembles On the Waterfront, Stanley Kubrick's brilliant film. This is about corruption. It has nothing to do with honesty. And what worries me is it's a genuine threat to Donald Trump. I mean, I think any step that would put him close to a New York prison is an extraordinarily dangerous step. And I would hope that there's some legal way to block it and make sure that it never happens, because the thugs he's dealing with are totally out of control, have total contempt for the rule of law, and frankly are unworthy of being in the offices they hold.
The former Speaker of the House of Representatives says, quote, "This is horrendous." I won't do the throat clearing stuff. This is horrendous, he says. There has to be some way to reach out to the Supreme Court. If only there was a defined set of parameters and rules that dictated to courts and jurisprudence in general of how to get before the Supreme Court. Apparently, Newt Gingrich thinks you just need to call him up or maybe go on Capitol Hill and scream across the street to the Supreme Court, "Supreme Court, help us." We know how to get to the Supreme Court. There's a clear and defined pattern and direction that you go if you're in a case. You go through the process of your criminal case, you find out the ruling of the jury, and then you appeal. And then if that one then you appeal up to maybe possibly the Supreme Court. That's how you do it. If only has to be some way to reach out to the Supreme Court. What he's talking about there, all jokes aside, is interference. He wants somehow out of the normal order to get to the Supreme Court and have them intervene. Out of order is what he's asking for. I'll skip the middle one about the civil rights thing, but when he says that, and what worries me is it's a genuine threat to Donald Trump. Do you think, Newt Gingrich? He's on trial for the crimes that he committed. 34 felony criminal counts in this case. Yeah, he's at risk. There is a threat to Donald Trump and his freedom because he's finally facing consequences, Newt. And thirdly, the second thing that he said there, and I want to get the quote right, because you don't want to misquote these people, because then they whine and cry even more. Quote, says Newt Gingrich, "This is literally like some of the civil rights workers in Mississippi in the 1960s. I want you to sit on that one for a minute. Marinate, luxuriate in the jackassery of that comment. And then I want to remind you who he's talking about. These three men right here. Andrew Goodman, James Chaney, and Michael Schwerner. 3 civil rights workers, 2 white, 1 black, who were murdered for attempting to sway the government to treat black Americans equally in this country. They were murdered for standing up for marginalized and oppressed Americans. And Newt fucking Gingrich wants to compare what's going on with Donald Trump to these guys. It's blasphemous. It's not just ahistorical. It's disrespectful of the hard work and the literal blood that has been shed by Americans of many stripes to make things better for different communities in our country. And Donald fucking Trump wasn't one of them. Donald Trump, years after these murders, was actually writing a C on the back of applications for rental of in his buildings. He would write a C on the back of an application if someone of color put that application in. It stood for colored person. They were sued by the federal government. So tell me more about how the plight of Donald Trump is literally like some of the civil rights workers in Mississippi in the 1960s. Newt Gingrich. Your racist cult leader wouldn't have had anything to do with the freedom marches, with the plight of black Americans who had the fire hoses turned upon them. Dogs attacked them. Not able to vote. And we could go back generations before that, when Donald Trump's father was attending KKK rallies in the streets in the 1920s in New York City. I mean, I would say, how dare you, Newt Gingrich? But you don't care. These people are liars, they're grifters, they're charlatans, and their only duty in life is to protect Donald Trump, even if it means besmirching the memory and the efforts of heroes, of actual decent Americans who put their lives on the line for the betterment of our society. These are the people who did the hard work, not Donald Trump, not Newt Gingrich. They are impediments to progress. Gross. Anyway, what do you think? I'll leave it to you. You can leave a comment below. We can disagree agreeably in the comments. I'm sure that's in some comment section that gets done. I'm not sure it's mine. But what do you think? You can also leave me a voicemail, 714-576-4054. And you can email me as well, daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you very much. If you feel the same way and you want to help support this work, click the join button below this YouTube video. Become a channel member for $2 a month. You can also click on over with your browser to patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast. Same rules, $2 a month. It does go a long way. If I'm able to marshal the size of my growing audience, and if like 5% were to give $2 a month, we could fundamentally change this operation. We could have a staff. We could man on the street interviews, really change. And I would appreciate it very much if you just consider it if I bring you value. Follow me on social media if that's your thing. I would appreciate it. I'm at Dollemore, and I will see you next time, hopefully with better news than Newt Gingrich. Be genuine. Take care of one another.